Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to try to answer the question as to why some clans were allowed to marry and some others were not allowed to marry in most communities in Kenya. But before I talk about that, let me react to some of the comments that people left in my previous video. Now, in the previous video, I talked about the misuse of the theory of the Great Bantu migration or expansion. And several people, of course, people have left so many comments in both TikTok and YouTube. Now, somebody left a comment that I found to be very valuable, actually, that it's like it explains the primary message in the video. And that is somebody who goes by the name Kiritu George. Now, he left this comment. He said that today in Middle East, of course, we know what's happening in Middle East, in Israel and Palestine, that conflict has gone on for a very long time. And today there is this talk in Israel that the Palestinians are foreign to the land, that they came to the land very recently and that they don't have a claim to that land. And then Kiritu says that, but what makes Palestinians Arabs is cultural, which is actually true. The Palestinians today, what makes them Arabs, because they are considered to be Arabs, is not genetics, is cultural. They adopted an Arabic culture and religion, and for the most part, not entirely, but you get what I mean. And that made them to be part of the Arab bloc. But they are natives to the land. Let's be open about this. They are natives to the land, but the same theory that was being used on Bantus, this theory of the Great Migration, is being used. It's a similar theory. It's not actually the same, but it's a similar theory of you people moved in. So we have a right to this land. In fact, we have more right to this land than you people. You people came from elsewhere. And it's a similar theory. And Kretu, thank you very much for that comparison. And anybody who cares to look at that and then look at the Bantu Great Migration theory will see the parallels. And because there is also the motive is the same, the underlying motive is the same. And somebody else say that, oh, you see, the people who came up with this theory were scholars. So they were not really motivated by, the politics of then, and they were purely scholars. These are people who came from a society. Even today's scholars, they come from a society. And so whatever they bring out, especially when it is theory, it is largely influenced by the society they come from. And you shouldn't get into the trap of thinking that because somebody is very academic, they are not going to be racist. They are not going to have biases towards certain people. No, in fact, the academics of the 19th century, 18th century were very racist, but they did not recognize it in themselves because they came from a society. They came from a society. So it wasn't really, we can't hold them, we can't put them like we try to think that they were being malicious. No, they were being malicious because of the society where they came from. So some people are thinking because these were academics, these were people who were experts and scientists and linguists. So they were removed from the society where they came from, which was racist. And so people in different, race was very important during that time. Putting people in castes of certain, certain people have to be, the whites are here, then there are some people you put here. And when the Europeans came to Africa, that's why many scholars were trying to identify groups that are next to Europeans, or, they were trying to create an hierarchy, actually. And that way of thinking, in fact, created a lot of problems in Africa. And some of those problems, we are experiencing them up today because the society is not harmonious, because there are people who were made to think, okay, there is the European up here, the Caucasians, then there are maybe the Arabs or the Indians. And even when you come among the Africans, there was that classification. Oh, the Somalis are here and the Ethiopians are here. And then, the so-called Bantus are here. And then the so-called the Pygmies are here. You get the point. And these were academics who were doing this, actually. They were academics. They were not just the ordinary Caucasian person from Europe. No. These were academics. In fact, the most ordinary people, you'll be shocked when you look at some of the old documents. You realize that often the people who were the most racist were these academics and people from the high society, from, for example, the UK. The ordinary British, they carried that thing, but they were not as much invested as the people from the higher society of Europe, and in particular Britain, for example. So don't allow the clock of all your academics, because often propaganda relies on that. If you've not done any study of propaganda or marketing, you maybe you don't know that authority is one of the 7 principles of marketing. Like, people, organizations use authority because people are easily misled through the cloak of authority and expert. Let's talk about clans marrying and not marrying. And this is also another aspect or another fact about African societies and African republics that will tell you that actually the so-called communities or tribes, let's use the word that often is used, were not necessarily related genetically. They were not. They were not necessarily related genetically. And that also goes to, again, trying to prove that language and genetics are not the same, even though some people are really invested that, oh, language and genetics is the same. It's so obvious that language and genetics, and this somebody is arguing in English, they are speaking English, and maybe their child is going to speak English as their first language, or maybe they are already, or their grandchild. And then you wonder, do you think your child now has a British genetics because they speak English? No, they don't. I remember this happened actually to someone I know. It's a while back. This person met a young girl. He was a young man himself. They meet in the city away from home. They come from the same community and or the same tribe, I should say, and they meet just like it was just a meeting that was not like they just met at a place where you know people meet and they get to know each other and they talk and they like each other and they start dating, and soon they are expecting a child, and then they are like, now we should go talk to our parents. And the guy's like, I'll take you to my parents, and then we'll go to your parents. Of course, how it is done. And the guy actually takes this lady to his parents. And the father asks the girl, so who are you? Where do you come from? You know, the usual. And she's like, oh, I come from this place. Where is your home? It is this place. And then the old man is like, what is your clan? He's like, oh, our clan is this. And the old man is hesitant and is like, those people we don't marry. And these young people are shocked. What do you mean? Because those people are very far from their home. There is no relationship. They don't know. There is no familiarity, like it's personal familiarity. And these young people are confused. What do you mean we don't marry? Is there what happening here? And the old man is like, those people are our relatives. The clan is not your family specifically, but that clan, the ancestor of that clan was the elder brother of the ancestor of our clan. And these two are big clans, actually. They have like each has a constituency today in Kenya's parliament. They have an entire constituency. So you can imagine there's a huge population of people. But this old man is telling these young people, those people where you come, young lady, and our people here, we are brothers. So we don't marry. And the lady goes to her home and she's told the same. Oh, where does the young man come from? He comes from this clan. So no, those people are our relatives. We don't get married. We don't marry them. And so that happens a lot. That happens a lot, actually, in very many Kenyan communities, and I guess in very many communities across Africa, where young people will meet a young woman, a young man, and they are total strangers. They talk, and when they go for introduction in their families, they are told, no. Those people are our relatives, or those people we don't marry with them. We don't do that with them. And for the young people, of course, they are confused. But then this begs the question. I know in very many communities that this happens, but then it begs the question. You'll find two clans that don't marry because they claim their ancestors were brothers, or they were sister and brother in some cases. Now you ask yourself, then there are these other clans around them. They speak the same language, the same culture, everything same, but those ones we are allowed to marry. Then if the ordinary, the common way we understand it, that all tribes or an entire tribe or a community comes from the same ancestor, then that should mean that all the clans are related. And the issue of, oh, we are marrying that, you are not marrying that, should not arise. There is a reason. The reason is clans. And I saw somebody who made this comment in one of the videos. I was trying to look for it so that I can give a shout out, but I could not get it. It got lost in them. So many other comments that you see, tribe is a cultural thing. The community was a cultural thing, but I will say it was a republic. It was a political unit for the most part, actually. It was a political unit. And these political units, people came to use the same language. But the composition of this republic was, of course, the components were clans. But it didn't mean that these clans were actually related by blood. No, it was a republic. Just like Kenya is a republic, there are so many people who come in. It's a contract, a social contract that we are going to survive together. It was the same case for most of these African republics. And that's why you will find, for example, among the Luo, there's some people called the Girango. They are in the Kisi called the Upper Girango. They are in other groups. In Luoland, there is the Kisero people. They are Bagisero in Kisi. They are Bagsereg in Kipsigis. These are actually the people who are related by blood. But now, these other people, maybe they came from elsewhere. So you find that in the same community, the Kipsigs, for example, they have the Bagisereg, they have the Kaboria. Kaboria are known to be people who came from the Somali people. And then the Bagisereg, we don't know. Maybe they came from a third group that then they split up, and some went among the Luos, and some went among the Kisis, and some went among the Kipsigis. So the point is, in these republics, it wasn't necessarily that all the people were related. It is that people came together and they formed a republic. And in that republic, they used a language, just like Kenya, or not Kenya, maybe may not be the very good example. Let's talk of Tanzania. Tanzania is a perfect republic for that. Tanzania is a republic that has been around, maybe we can say 60, 70 years now. But Tanzania has done something that is so interesting, that people come from different communities. They are actually built an harmonious society. And now most Tanzanians speak Swahili as basically the primary language. It might not be their first language, but it's their primary language. And they speak it so well. And their culture is now being built around Swahili. And we can project and think what will happen in the next 100 years in Tanzania. That will be a completely one society where all of them speak Swahili as their language. And these other languages might die off, actually, may disappear. Now, if there was no recording of history the way we do today, and 200 years, people start studying what is Tanzania, they will be like, oh, these people are related. They come from the same ancestor. That's why they speak the same language. That's why they have the same culture. But no, they were not. They formed a republic. And again, we should not get lost into this exceptionalism of an era thing, where we think that our era is exceptional, that what's happening in Tanzania is happening because it's now, it's a modern thing. No, that's how people have existed for thousands of years, forming new societies, forming republics, forming monarchies, being conquered, conquering others. So the point is, language, again, is not genetic. These people speak the same language because they found themselves in the same republic. And this issue of clans marrying and others not marrying is another part you can look at and realize, okay, this means there were clans within the same community that were not related at all, except through marriage. And that's why they will say, oh, those ones we marry with them because we are not related with them. Those ones we don't marry with them because they are our brothers. And this is within the same community. Yeah, go ask around, you find that is very common, actually, especially in very many Kenyan communities, and I guess very many communities across Africa. Those are my random thoughts.